Here's a fun fact. Did you know that cruise ships have jails on them? If you did, good for you. If you didn't, then you're like me. And believe me, I found out the hard way. Back in 2018, my family decided that we were going to take a vacation on a cruise ship. None of us had ever been on one, and we thought this would be a great first-time experience with the family. We docked from Miami, Florida for a 7-day trip that would take us to the Bahamas. As a 17-year-old girl at the time, I was super excited to finally see why so many people loved to go on cruises. And honestly, as the week went by, it wasn't at all exciting. You're pretty much on a floating hotel with a bunch of strangers. The only actual fun time that I had was when we docked in the Bahamas and we could walk around and check out the area. But as we were heading back to Miami on the 7th day, I decided that I wanted to walk around the bow of the ship by myself. It was late. The rest of my family was in the dining hall, drinking and celebrating our last night on the cruise. I was leaning on the rail of the bow, just staring out into the black ocean. If I'm being honest, it was actually terrifying looking out. I remember thinking, what if someone fell overboard? You wouldn't be able to see them. As I continued to stare out into the black ocean, I remember the moon reflecting the necklace that I was wearing. It was my grandmother's. She had given it to me as a gift just before she passed away a few years back. As I was reminiscing of my grandmother and the terrifying dark ocean before me, a man approached me. Now, at this moment in the story, I was a little tipsy. The man seemed to be pretty cute, and my guard wasn't all the way up. He said hello and asked for my name. We started to chat a bit when I suddenly realized how alone we were. It was just us two by the bow of the ship talking. I didn't see another person at all. This fact alone started to sober me up. Even though he was cute, I started to get this uncomfortable feeling. I nervously told him I needed to get back to the dining hall. I was walking away when he grabbed my arm hard. I told him to let go. He looked at my chest and said, "That's a lovely necklace." I tried to yank my arm away from his grasp, but he was too strong. He tore the necklace clean off my neck. I started to scream at him to give it back. This is where it becomes nightmarish. He slapped me hard across my cheek and started to bear hug me. He was trying to lift me up and throw me off the bow of the ship. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I screamed so loudly that I thought my throat was going to tear. I fought for my life as he aggressively tried to lift me up over the railing and throw me over. By the grace of God, 2 crew members heard my screams and sprinted over. One of them grabbed hold of the man, while the other grabbed me and pulled me back down from the railing. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out. The crew members radioed for backup, and in 2 minutes, there was about 10 security members at the scene. They detained the man and threw him in the brig. I remember wondering what the brig was when one of the crew members said that it was the jail cell that they have on the ship. And that is exactly how I found out that cruise ships have jails. My family eventually came to me, and I was returned my grandmother's necklace. In the end, the cruise liner offered us a full refund and a 5-year pass in their first-class suites. As for the guy who attacked me, when we docked in Miami, he was arrested for assault. I don't know what his sentence was. I hope you enjoyed my fun fact. What do you think causes people to snap? Is it stress, jealousy, rage, maybe cabin fever? I don't really have an answer, but you need to listen to this. A few years ago, my boyfriend at the time bought us 2 tickets for a getaway cruise vacation. He had just been promoted in his job, and he decided to splurge and get us first class. It was honestly one of the most luxurious experiences that I've ever had. It sounds corny, but I felt like Rose on the Titanic, the way the staff treated us. We were having a great time. We'd see live performances during the day and go dancing in one of the private clubs they had for their exclusive members during the nights. Well, one night, I believe it was the night before the ship was to head back to port in New York, me and my boyfriend decided to go to bed early. We were in our cabin suite. My boyfriend was brushing his teeth in the bathroom, and I was lying on the bed scrolling through Instagram when there was a loud knock on our door. I called out to my boyfriend and asked if he ordered room service. He yelled back that he didn't. I got up from the bed and went to the door. I was about to open it, but decided to look through the peephole instead. I believe this small action was what saved our lives. And as I looked through the peephole, I saw a disheveled-looking man standing in front of our door. He was breathing heavily, his eyes were wide, and there were red stains smeared all over him. And I didn't quite know what to think as I stared at him. 30 seconds must have passed when he started banging on our door again, but this time, much harder. The door handle started to jiggle as he tried to get in, and I yelled for my boyfriend to get over here now. The man was now screaming that he needs to come in and show us something. My boyfriend pushed past me and looked through the peephole. He yelled to get the fuck away from our door right now. The man did not listen. He continued to bang on our door, screaming to let him in. He was banging so hard that the edges of the door started to splinter. Terrified that he was going to break in and do God knows what to us, my boyfriend called for security from the cabin phone. We stayed pressed up against the door to prevent him from getting in when we finally heard other voices outside. We heard security yelling at him to stop what he's doing. I thought there was going to be some big fight and the man would retaliate, but it sounded like he just listened to the security. We could hear him being detained, and we figured it was now safe to open our door. After about a half an hour of explaining to security what happened, we soon found out the grisly details of what this man was doing. Only 2 cabin doors down from us was where that man and his wife were staying. They were going to ask her some questions about her husband, but found out she had been stabbed over 40 times in the chest and neck. The man had used an ice pick that was in their cabin freezer. After he mutilated his wife, for some reason, he wandered over to our cabin and was asking to come in. He had the ice pick in his hand when he was knocking, and I'm positive he would have killed me and my boyfriend if I had not looked in the peephole first. The weird thing about this whole story is I remember seeing that man in the breakfast lounge with his wife. They seemed like a normal, happy couple enjoying a cruise vacation. My boyfriend later explained to me that he probably caught cabin fever and just snapped. This experience actually left such a traumatic imprint on me that I was unable to continue my relationship with my boyfriend. Sad, I know, but that's how badly it messed me up. I've since gotten better, but believe me when I say, I will never step foot on a cruise ship again. How would you define evil? Is it a human murdering another human? Is it doing harm to the innocent? Whatever evil is to you, this story is exactly that. Listen to this. Back in 2019, my family and I went on a cruise vacation for 5 days. It was Christmas time, and this was our usual family tradition. We would take a cruise to the Caribbean islands, and then be back by Christmas Eve. It was actually a great holiday vacation. Anyway, I believe it was our last night on the ship. We were heading back to our port in Fort Lauderdale. My sister and I were walking around the ship pretty late. By the way, I was 22 at the time of the story. But we were walking around close to the bow of the ship when we both suddenly heard these horrific screams. My sister is a nurse, so we both immediately ran over to where we heard the screams. We got to the very back of the ship and saw this woman standing by the rails, laughing hysterically. A little confused, we both approached her cautiously, asking her if everything was okay because we heard screaming. The woman, who had to be in her mid-30s, started to laugh even harder now. My sister and I were about to leave this weird woman alone when she started to point her finger over the railing, like she wanted to show us something. My sister and I stepped up to the railing and looked down. Down in the black ocean below, barely visible, were 2 young children thrashing in the water, trying to stay afloat. When I tell you my heart sank into my stomach, I am not exaggerating. My sister immediately ran off screaming for help. I stayed with the woman, who was still laughing hysterically. I remember she even bent over the railing and started waving at the children as if they were going off to school. She called out saying, "Bye kids, mommy loves you." And at that point, every cell in my body wanted to attack this woman, but I just froze. Like I literally thought at any moment I was going to wake up in my cruise cabin and this would all be some hellish nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. Crew members came to the bow in 2 minutes. They threw life preservers down below for the children to grab onto. In the meantime, crew members were hastily preparing to lower an emergency lifeboat to save them. This is something that I didn't know happens. When someone is overboard, the captain of the ship signals a distress sound, letting the whole crews know the situation. This signal was blaring, and the emergency lifeboat finally went into the water, trying to save the kids. But even from this distance, I could see that the kids were floating motionless in the dark ocean. When the lifeboat was finally hoisted back up to the ship, the disturbing truth was revealed. Both children had died. And here is what still haunts my dreams. The mother was rocking on her feet, laughing, and saying, "Oh good, no more children, I'm free." And I could not believe it. When we docked to the port the next day, there was a battalion of police cars waiting to arrest this mother. And I don't know all the details, but I do know that she was charged with first-degree murder. Her children were 8 and 6 years old. So yes, I know everyone has a different definition of evil, but I have to believe that this mother was absolutely evil. And yes, my sister and I are still traumatized to this day. And yes, my family and I will never get back on a cruise ship again.